joining us today. Welcome to our first slow touring session of the year, which is touring in alignment with Indigenous values. I'm really happy to see you all. I'm happy to see the interest in this topic. Before I do any of my housekeeping or anything else, I really want to go over to our first guest, Tashina Sarazin, who is a singer and a powwow dancer based in North Bay, and who's going to start us off in a good way today. So welcome, Tashina. Hi.
Ani. So just before we start, want to let everybody know that usually before I start anything, I always remember my fire or our ishkade. So before I start my work, from this end over here, my fire is always present. And it helps to keep me grounded as well. And it's really the root of everything that I do. So I always start with the fire. It was kind of our original bundle item. So before we had shakers, before we had drums, before we had all of these other beautiful bundle items that have come into existence with our people, our fire was one of our original bundle items. So I always make sure that that's present with me. Hopefully I will, not hopefully, but I'll be I'll be present throughout this happening. So I just wanted to kind of start by letting you guys know that I lit our fire for today, and it will go until we are finished. So just if that helps to bring comfort to you, that's something that I always feel is comforting, especially if there's other indigenous artists and movers. Sometimes we need our fire. We don't always use it for big ceremonies. Sometimes we use it just to be able to have something else present to witness what we're doing. So sometimes in how we show up, we don't always show up performative, but we want to show up knowing that the right presence is with us. And so our fire connects us to loved ones that have passed on. Our fire connects us to our spirit, our own spirit, and helps us to ground. So before I open with a song, I would just like to offer kind of an intention so that you're able to participate while I'm singing. Coming into grounding is really important before we do our work. And if, especially when we're on Zoom meetings, it's kind of hard to feel each other. It's kind of hard to, feel each other's energy. But if we can come to like a collective intention, this is actually a huge energetic day for the entire world in our solar system. Astronomically, it's a really big day. We're coming out of a 14-year cycle. And so over the last 14 years, whatever has happened, it would be like waking up from a dream. So that's kind of the energy that we're in today. We're in such a beautiful, beautiful moment in creation to be able to harness whatever to get into the river. That's what we want to do. We want to get into the river of the energy that's already presenting itself, so that we're able to go along with her and make those changes and bring in that inspiration that is already calling. So I'd like to offer a visualization of when I'm singing. And the song that I'm going to sing, I think I would like to share a morning song. So this is a morning song that I've carried it for a long time. My aunties used to sing it. And I think it's really fitting with, some of the things that we have come here today. So a morning song, like the way that I was taught this morning song when we sing it, is the darkest moments are just before the sun comes up. So the darkest part of night, the darkest part of the whole day, our 24 hours, is just before the sun comes up, just before that first light breaks. So this is a song that talks about that small amount of time before, like, going from, being the darkest moment to the first light, the first break of day, and how we need to how we connect to that. So how do we connect to that first breath of light that comes into our space? And we want to really welcome that first breath of light as I sing the song, and use it kind of as a rocker. And I know it's kind of funny, but the other day, my partner's car wouldn't start, so we had to rock it in neutral. And so this song kind of is like, it kind of has that energy of, sometimes you have to, sing and call for the sun to come up, like when we're in darkness or when we are stuck. Sometimes, like, some of our songs come in to help us call so that the light knows where to find us. And so that's kind of what this song is about. And so just to imagine what your light is. Like, what is the light that you need to come up? What's the light that you need to come up? You can have a color, whatever that is to you. The light could come from inside. So this morning song could be a light that needs to be illuminated from inside. It could be a visualization of the sun coming up, like the dawn. It could be a light that comes and surrounds you. Whatever kind of light that you feel that you need today to return to you. I think creation is so beautiful in a sense where every morning we wake up and the light is there. That's, if we cannot count on anything else in creation, our sun gets up every morning, and it meets us. That's something that we can count on for now. Let's so yeah. So if you want to picture, what is your light that you want to return to you, and we can focus on that before we start. So I'll sing this 4 times through, and I'd like to invite you to take some, maybe 3 deep breaths with me. You can close your eyes, you don't have to. I'll close my eyes when I sing, helps me to connect. Yeah, so we'll take 1 deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. And wherever you want that light to come in, you can place your hands there. So if you need that light to come into your heart or your stomach or your head or your arms, like wherever you need that light to come in, if that's helpful for you, you can place it on your body, place your hands on your body, and bring attention to that place. And then we'll take 1 more deep breath together. And out through the mouth. And just relax and focus on the light returning to you, your birthright, the light that is promised to you, promised to return to you without payment, without anything. This light is yours for this session. It is yours for this day. And just allow me to sing for you as you focus on the light that you would like to be present with yourself. Hey, hey, Gwendo day, hey, hey, Gwendo day, hey. Hey, Gwendo day, hey, Gwendo day, hey. Hey, Gwendo day, hey, Gwendo day, hey. Hey, Gwendo day, 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 hey, Gwendo day. Hey, Gwendo day, hey, Gwendo day. Hey, Gwendo day, hey, Gwendo day, hey, Gwendo day, hey, Gwendo day. All right, slowly open your eyes and come back. Thank you so much for participating in that calling back our light for our session.
Thank you so much, Tashina. I love seeing all these heart reactions. It seems like everyone is having a similar feeling to me. I was feeling like I didn't know I needed those 3 deep breaths until I did them. So thank you so much. What a beautiful way to begin. And I think a morning song was perfect. That's kind of the speed that I was feeling at, still at the beginning and the start of something. Wonderful. Um, okay. Well, again, thank you for joining this first slow touring session of 2026. Um, my screen sharing. Can I? My screen doesn't want to share. So maybe I'll just stop sharing and I'll just tell you instead. What I like to do just before we jump into the workshop is to just share a little bit of a community agreement. I hope it's okay that I'm sharing it out loud instead of visually. A community agreement is kind of like the guidelines for our session, but it's just intended to be something that I suggest and that other folks can also add to, um, or comment on. If you have any access needs that would help you participate in this workshop, would very much welcome you to let me know. Either you can let me or Noor know privately in the chat, um, or for everyone in the chat. But here's what I put forward for our community agreement. Everyone is welcome to eat and move around and take breaks and turn your camera on and off as needed. You do not have to apologize for that. Also, if your home is anything like mine today, there's some stir crazy children home from school in the snow day. So I think we all understand that there's many things going on at once when we do these work from home workshops. Automatic captioning is available. If you want to turn it on, you can just click show captions, which is sometimes under the more, the dot 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 more button at the bottom right. We are recording today's session and we will share the video with everyone who registered. Please give us about a week to be able to get materials out to everyone. Communication for today. Really welcome feedback and communication. Love the emoji reactions. Please feel free to chat in the chat. And then later there'll be a chance for you to speak out loud and ask questions if you want. Um, and my final proposal for this agreement is that good conversation means taking risks. So we welcome disagreements and mistakes as long as everything is done with good intentions and with respect for everyone else. We're all in a process of learning and figuring out how to transform our sector to be slower, kinder, healthier, more sustainable. And I think we're all just kind of stumbling through together. So I really welcome everyone just making the attempt and sometimes being vulnerable. Um, that's what I'm putting forward for today. If anyone else has requests for how we run this in a way that addresses access needs, which we all have access needs, please let me know. Okay. I realized that I should first introduce myself, just in case anyone doesn't know me. I am Ceilidh Wood. My pronouns are she and her and hers. I am a program manager with Ontario Presents, and I created and managed the Slow Touring Project, which I won't go into too much, but there's plenty on our website about slow touring overall if it's something you're interested in. Um, my visual description is that I'm a white woman in my 30s. I have long, dark brown hair. I'm wearing a kind of soft, um, is this a highlighter yellow sweater? Not quite. It's like darker than that. I can't remember what that color is called. And I have a messy mudroom behind me because that's the reality of work from home in a small house. I have a severe chronic illness, and that has really changed my perspective on slowness and urgency culture. I've also coordinated many tours with Ontario Presents, and that has led me to learn a lot of things about the touring sector that made me want to create this program to fight urgency culture. I am speaking to you from Toronto or Tuscarora, which is Dish with One Spoon territory. It's the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, including the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit. And I am so always thankful and trying to be in connection with those nations who have taken care of this land since time immemorial. So I say we dive in, and I'm going to introduce you to our two lovely speakers for today. First, I will introduce Dr. Terri-Lynn Brennan, who is a wonderful colleague of mine, formerly was the administrative director here at Ontario Presents, and I was so happy to have an opportunity to get the band back together. Terry uh, has a lot of experience embedding Indigenous values and approaches in not only her own work, but supporting other organizations in the culture and heritage field in trying to find ways to decolonize and work in alignment with Indigenous approaches. Terry is an intercultural planner and administrator who has a company called Inclusive Voices, where she acts as a consultant and is also the executive director of the LodgePole Arts Alliance, which maybe I'll have Terry share a little bit more about what that is in a moment. Christine Friday is our second speaker today. Hi, Christine. You're added in. Perfect. Christine is a dancer and choreographer and the artistic director of Friday Creations, who recently launched a state-of-the-art dance studio lodge in the bush. So both of these women are not only creating and putting things out into the world, but also hosting and creating space for other artists, which I think is really wonderful and perfectly aligned with today's theme. And Christine has performed at some Ontario Presents member venues, so I feel like we have a good representation of some friends of Ontario Presents today. Um, Thank you both for being here. Maybe I'll just have you first introduce yourselves a little bit more and tell us about your work. Can I go to Terry first?
Sego, Sego's gonna go, Sego Guego, Terri-Lynn Brennan Youngyats, Kanien'kehá British, Nadridodan, Goeno Gweski, Goeno de Gunugarish, Viganajidron. And what Wanumaradon. So welcome to this territory. If you live in the Dish with One Food corridor, and you're a guest here, I offer my welcome as part of my family past and connections to this land. I live on Wolfe Island off the coast of Kingston at the other end of Lake Ontario for where Ontario Presents sits. And I do identify with mixed heritage. Mohawk, I didn't say Tuscarora, but I should have said Tuscarora there in my Mohawk introduction. And settler, British. My mom's side is from Europe. Sorry, from England and Ireland, respectively. As Kaylee said, yeah, have a varied career, mostly in cultural administration. And that's kind of a graduate from a background in education, archaeology, and public policy. And I am pretty much, yeah, running a couple organizations right now with colleagues, of which one and the main one is LodgePole Arts Alliance out here in the East, but it is a national charity. And our goal is to buy land and build space for, for Indigenous creators, sorry, to practice their artistry in co-creation with other artists from across the country as a way to reignite traditional trade routes. And it's not a matter of trading our utilitarian goods or our pelts or our foods, although all of that can certainly be done. It's now about trading creative gifts. And so we hold a national event in October every year now, and many folks have been starting to come out, of which Christine has been a integral part of helping to mold this event and help steer it in a good way. I'm very happy to say. I'll uh, I'll leave it there for now. Nyong'o.
Thank you so much. Christine, can I welcome you to introduce yourself?
Yes, I want to begin by thanking Tashina for the song and for helping to become present in the moment. And actually, one of the I like acknowledging gifts that people share, and one of the gifts that Tashina has incredible medicine, but one of the reminders she always gives me is that, and to ask to share what needs to be heard. So I appreciate that, Tashina. So Miigwech, thank you for the invitation to be here. Thank you, Terri-Lynn, for supporting the conversation and for us connecting together. I am, so I'll introduce myself, Kwe Bojo, Christine Friday Indigenous. I Makwa Manising Dinda Nadakimanan Donjaba. I live in, well, I should share my mother's side of my family is Cree, Algonquin, and Ojibwe, and my father's side is Irish and Italian mix. My lived experience, I am Anishinaabe Kwe. That is my lived experience. That's who I am. I live on my homeland, which I spent a lot of my life going home and coming home. And once I came home, I knew that's when I was going to be able to fulfill my potential. So I'm not home at this moment. I'm in Sudbury in a hotel room. It's very obvious, like a hotel room. I actually came from this morning from Mississaugas of the Credit, working with the youth, and actually got to hear their creation story, which was very grounding. And it reminds me actually of where I'm speaking from, but I also want to acknowledge that my mom is actually in a surgery right now today, and that's why I'm in Sudbury. So I'm not home, but I am close to home. So yeah, I've been learning a lot lately. That morning song, and actually, when I think of morning, actually, where I'm sitting right now, it's letting go of something. Like to me, it was more about a mourning, like a death or a letting go. I'm not trying to get morbid about my mother or anything. I know I still have some time. And if we don't, everything is the way it's supposed to be as well. So really living in the present moment. And also too, when we have those challenging times in our lives, it's sometimes we have to drop everything and go, but sometimes we have to keep doing our work because that's also what's going to feed our spirit. I live in my homeland, and which is the height of the Shield. The watershed stems down from there. So it's Lake Temagami. The watershed stems down in two different directions, and it's lake. It's a big lake, Lake Temagami, with connecting lakes. There's underwater caves. There's all kinds of spirits there. There's giants, little people, water beings. There's spirits in the trees. There's spirits in the animals. There's spirits everywhere. I am a human, and listening and being guided by what needs to happen, and I spiritually and through the spirits of the land. And that's why it's so important that we protect our way of life, and our stories and who we are and where we come from is connected to the land. So yeah, I want to acknowledge the land in my intro. Miigwech. I don't know what else should I talk about. I know what to talk about. Maybe a little bit about my where I am in my career. I know the conversation will come up more, but I feel like I've taken a long, profound route, and that I have not fulfilled my potential. And I think I'll be an old lady in my 90s and still saying the same thing. Like I haven't fulfilled my potential. There's so much work to do, but I feel that I'm building a foundation, and that takes time. So I think that's what I can share connected to this conversation is about building a foundation. So miigwech.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's a topic that we can definitely get into. Just want to say I'm sorry to hear about your mom. Hopefully that this whole group here can maybe send some good energy and prayers for you today. Um, Jumping into the topic here, this is a question for both of you. So either one of you who wants to kind of jump in with me, starting general. When we think of your work in the touring and presenting sector, so as an artist, creating work, touring work, as a host, hosting artists, what are some of the ways that you align your work with Indigenous values, or really more specifically with Anishinaabe, Kanien'kehá, Tuscarora values, specifically in your work? I open the floor.
Terri-Lynn, you want me to start?
Sure.
I a lot of my guidance and my teachings come from many different places, but they do come from my great grandmother Sophie Sophie Potts, and she taught us in our matriarchal lineage to treat people how you want to be treated. So it's pretty simple and basic that way. Looking after the yourself, looking after the land, and yeah, being mindful of that space. But the question, and just say it one more time, is because I just kind of got caught in just say the question one more time, and then I can flow.
Yeah, what are some ways that the way you work is aligned with Anishinaabe values?
Okay, well, it's everything to me. I think that's why I'm here during this time. And how does that align? I mean, I think coming home has really allowed me to align myself with my Anishinaabe ways of knowing, living, and understanding. And even back to what Tashina was talking about the fire, like being able to have a fire, being able to integrate ceremony in everything that I do. So it's not something that not only do we have those times of ceremony, but also our own ceremonies, and then ceremonies even in the work that I do. I always begin with an offering, and I don't like to control the narrative of everything. I like to get myself grounded and ground myself, root myself, open myself up, align myself, work on my energy so I can be in the right place. And I'm not there all the time. To me, that's again about a human experience. So you're constantly working on that. And yeah, so I can have this lifestyle because I have a husband as well who's like a bush guy, and so we go moose hunting. We live that Anishinaabe lifestyle, but it's also been uh, contained. And what's happening now in our communities, or one that I'm witnessing, is the like the energy, and I think it's not just community. I think it's even in large community, just the material forces, and so that how important it is for spirit to be present. And I'm like, that just sounds so crazy, but it's not crazy. uh, but so, and I have another part of, for me, I always carried an ache in my heart. And I knew whenever I go home to my homeland, the ache would leave. But when I would leave my homeland, the ache would happen again. Since I moved home 5 years ago now, my ache has left. I don't have an ache in my heart anymore. I I my husband and I built a house together, and then we built a dance studio lodge where I have this sprung dance floor on Bear Island, and then I also do land-based artist retreats, creation camps for both. I do work with Dabaj. I also have brought the students from the National Ballet School to my ancestral homeland, Friday's Point. For me, it's about bringing people to the land and having them have their own unique experience. So I guess that also comes back to that not wanting to control the narrative of everything, but being that helper, and that shkabe was to be able to be present, to be able to listen to spirit, and to be guided. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. Pass it over to Terri-Lynn.
Miigwech, Christine. And I would be, yes, continue to be delinquent if I did not offer my sincere gratitude to Tashina for the opening. Your voice resonated through my body. And although I'm not totally there after the morning I've had, it did help. So Nyawagoa tremendously for your beautiful voice and for your beautiful words this morning, or I should say this afternoon. And Christine as well, sending positive healing energy for your mom at this time. I hate to say it, Kaylee, can you repeat the question?
Not a problem at all, Terri. What are some of the ways that the work that you're doing is aligned with Kanien'kehá and Tuscarora values?
Right. Um, I giggle in the sense that I'm now at a point in my life, nearing retirement, fingers crossed, that I feel the strong, if you will, Mohawk woman in me, which usually is a bit of um, a butt kicker, has no barrier to that right now. So I'm doing a lot of calling out on people who are taking up space from space that should be taken up by Indigenous people, and trying to very much impart Indigenous voices as leading decision making. So a lot of the work I certainly do as a cultural consultant involves working with and co-creating with regional community Indigenous voices, ways for them to basically rewrite how culture is defined, determined, rolled out, and seen as sustainable in their communities, especially in municipal communities, as I do a lot of culture plans or public art plans. With Lodgepole, it's more of a process where, as I said in my intro, it's a reflection on the state of culture in Canada and the state of Indigenous culture in particular, which has always been lesser than, which has always been devalued, which has always been sidelined, if recognized, invisible at all. And so, as the number one focus for Lodgepole, as I mentioned, it's about securing land. And it's not about securing land through a conservation easement or a land trust. It's about buying privately land outright and taking back land in that capacity. Many Indigenous organizations are not in the position to buy significant pieces of private land simply through history. And so, what is really important at this stage is to make other people understand, and this is something that's actually very close to conversations that I'm having right now, is that Indigenous organizations can be trusted to actually do what's right for the land and for communities better than any treaty partner organization can, especially a government one. And so reacquiring land that needs to be nurtured back to health and tells us what it needs is what right now my intentions are, as through my teachers and through the voices of folks that sit in the arts with me. Again, I'm not an artist per se. I'm someone who likes to get dirty in the trenches and put have people put their understanding of place and identity in the conversation as to how they have been privileged in a way that they might not understand, and therefore they need to take a step back and get out of the way for those that are much capable of doing the right thing in a good way for the land, for their communities, and for their next generations to come, if that's helpful.
That's so helpful, Terry. Thank you. I think one thing that you made clear is the link between the idea of land back and, the decolonization is not a metaphor reminder that decolonization is about land and land back. You really made the connection to the arts industry specifically and how that can manifest for the work that we're all doing. It is something that's relevant to us. It's not something going on in another industry or another place. That I think there is this massive connection between art and land, as Christine was also getting into. So thank you. I'm going to go back to you, Christine. When we were prepping for this, you talked a little bit about how you've changed your understanding of success compared to like a mainstream idea of becoming internationally known or successful. Can you maybe talk to us about how you've defined success in your career?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I was checking to see, I was just kind of peeking to it. Denise Bolduc is here. And I just want to say, acknowledge Denise. So, because I wanted to, Denise had planted the seed, plant seeds. And one of the seeds Denise had planted was about relationship building. And so for me, it's the key. The key to success is relationship building. So I just want to acknowledge Denise for that. So relationship building with self, relationship building with community, relationship with self, family, community, and then our nations or our tribes, and then connecting nation to nation, our tribe to tribe, and also sharing the matriarchal perspective of history too. I think is really important because it's so male dominated, and we need to. I think we need to I was gonna say warrior up as women and take back our place as well, even within our own communities. But I feel like those fires are growing. Uh, Success to me is actually I have 3 sons, and one of my sons had asked me, my middle son, "What are you going for in life, Mom?" And after I had, spent some time thinking about that, I'm going for peace. So to me, that's success is feeling peace within myself, and that as well takes that takes time. That takes that relationship building and that growth, and to understand what is that peace. And recently, I actually had an experience about that where. I was, because I work a lot with that kind of intention, but I felt my being shoot up uh, into uh, into the another realm. So leaving Earth and shooting up, almost like the speed of light, or like a flash like that of energy. And and my arms were down and my chest was up, and then I started to feel about what was the answer for me in for life, like the meaning of life for me. And for me, it was understanding my place in creation. So when we understand our place in creation, then there's that peace that comes to ourselves. And maybe that, we feel moments of that, but maybe at times we feel that light, or that love, or that peace within ourselves grows. So and that is something that we give ourselves, and I think that's reminds me of what I also been learning, and is about foundational growth, where no one has to give me an award. No one has to tell me. I'm not waiting for someone to tell me that I'm great. It doesn't matter. That to me, that's ego. And the first thing you learn as an artist is to put your ego down. You should learn that pretty early. Maybe some, I'm not sure. But that was the first thing I learned as a very young artist, I learned about my ego. So that to me is success, is being able to find your place in your community, to be able to find your place on the land. But now as I'm growing my voice and my understanding of my place in myself, my family, my community, and on the land and in creation, I feel like it's important to connect those fires in our communities and to connect together. So yeah, that's important to me. There's no colonial setup is going to help me with that, and I don't expect it to. So, but I think it's important to these platforms, like if the experiences I've experienced with my family and with my community, is even through all of these traumas we've been through, all these historical traumas, that it's time to take back our place on this land and have our voices be heard. So we need to share these platforms. So maybe the messaging that I would share is about take a risk, get out of your comfort zone, because we don't grow. You got to get a little bit uncomfortable to grow. To have you can't just use one Indigenous artist. You have to find different qualities of people from different nations, from different lands, because that's how we can weave the beautiful human culture, human nature understanding of expression, of spirit, and of culture.
Wow, thank you. That's beautiful. I really appreciate that answer because I think we can all learn from that, not just speaking specifically about Indigenous artists, but anyone that wants to kind of change how our industry is working. We do have to change our indicators of success and um, reflect on our egos a little bit um, in order to make that change. You spoke about relationships and a relational way of working. So I'm maybe going to go over to Terri and ask you, Terri, can you tell us more about what it really means to have a non-transactional relationship, or what a relational way of working looks like in practice?
Nioi. And yeah, Chimigwaj, Christine, for that beautiful talk about success. Because in my understanding, it's a word that does not transcribe into our language in a way that is how the colonial mindset looks at success. Anyway, relationships are essential. I mean, your relationship with all your relations, from the land to the water to the animals, is quintessential. And certainly from our, if you will, Onahari Thanksgiving address. Sorry, I'm not speaking very coherently today. We are identified as human beings. We are the least important in that configuration because we need everything else to survive where nothing else needs us. And so the relationship of understanding transactionality, again, kind of comes back to an understanding of success, where transactions are rooted in usually monetary exchange. And you don't have to have monetary exchange to have a wealth of shared knowledge, a wealth of uh, seeing, feeling, being, you know, filled up and beyond to the brim of joy, of passion, of acquiring what you need to survive every day or survive every month. Within community, this happens routinely, and it's not based in wealth exchange or monetary exchange. It's based in a non-transactional way, and so putting that, I guess, kind of in motion or in practice is again something that LodgePole Arts is trying to do, where we look at the opportunities for Indigenous artists to come together and, or in this case, slow tour in a way that shows the variety of the gifts that artists have with community. And so it takes the time for folks to come together and share all that they have as creatives. We have our national gathering, and it's not a showcase. It's not a transactional event. We invite folks who hopefully understand that and know that they're not coming to sit across from an agent or a presenter or a producer. They're coming to actually sit across from other creatives, other Indigenous creatives from across Turtle Island, who want to exchange experiences, who want to exchange knowledges, because we all come from so many different nations. And so therefore, in our historical times, so many different countries. We were all our own country. We had our own governance systems, our own science, our own tech, our own exchange of goods, in a way, in society norms that were not the same. And so relearning those again, those trade routes of respect is so important when we come together to show each other our gifts, and then to sit and soak it in, just like Tashina's opening. You sit and you soak in the beauty of those gifts. That's way more important than a money exchange. And we provide those types of opportunities then to co-collaborate, as Christine was speaking about, because it's co-creation, it's co-collaboration, and rebuilding those relationships through those opportunities is something that LodgePole works on programmatically and provides those moments of exchange to heal. To again coming back to, as Christine rightly said in reference to Denise, and work with the self to build the self towards then being able to build with community and build with family and give and exchange in a reciprocal way. And certainly for me, it's the same thing in regards to being able to have understand and take on the responsibilities of giving back to community and being part of community. That's what it's about. And to me, that's also in the language would resort to an understanding of success is being strong enough and capable enough to be able to hold those responsibilities within community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that also gets to the model of gathering that is kind of standard in our sector around showcasing. And you've pointed out that you're approaching it from a direction that brings everyone in on an equal power dynamic, that doesn't separate out presenters and artists and say that someone's a decision maker and the other person's there to kind of hope for a job opportunity. Yeah, I really appreciate that shift, because I think that's something that, Ontario Presents is also trying to work towards, and that we even saw in the research phase of slow touring in Britt Johnston's report on Indigenous touring, which is on our website if anyone's looking for it. But she also said the traditional showcase model is not working for Indigenous artists. So I'm gonna, oh, sorry, Christine, please jump in. You're on mute though.
Okay, thank you. To go with this flow, because there's something important to say here. So I've been, just to give some context, in 32 years of my career, not that I've been trying to get to showcases for 32 years, but I have applied to many, many, many showcases, and I've only been accepted into one in all of my career. So, and it was at Woody's Point, and so I went, but that can't, and I just, it's and I, even for me to, as a dance artist, to figure out how are people getting these opportunities, like, because I don't have an agent. So where to shift this system, we are going to have to break down the hierarchy system where we're all eye to eye. No one person's better than another. Each one of us has a gift to offer, and together we create a whole. So whatever, maybe is the ego again, or just yeah, like what is why are people doing, I guess that the intention again, like why do you do the work that you do, and why are we not creating more support systems for artists, and like, even I just came back from so I've been designing this program, this youth empowerment program, and that's called Minabamadzulin, which is a part of the Good Life. But I started, so instead of me going to this community, Mississauga's a credit, instead of me coming in and doing a choreography and then leaving, I have been investing myself in the community for 10 months now, working towards a performance piece that's representational of their community and of the youth, and that's inspired by the youth. So I'm not coming in and putting myself on youth. I'm coming in and activating or awakening what their story is. And that's my job as a choreographer, not to be on stage and be in some kind of glory. It's to bring out the best in people. That's my job. Yeah, so I want to share that.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Um, I have more questions for you, and I'm going to keep going, but I just wanted to quickly say if anyone else has questions that you'd like to ask, I could interview Christine and Terry for probably hours on end, but I really would welcome questions from you. So I'll just let that sit as I keep going. So feel free to put questions in the chat, or if you can raise your hand using the Zoom raise hand function, that way I'll be sure to see you. Yeah, please feel free to kind of be a part of this. But in the meantime, this is a question for both of you. Since we've kind of got into this topic of the default way that our industry is working and the fact that there is non-Indigenous leadership at really most of the kind of mainstream arts institutions that we have, what responsibilities do non-Indigenous presenters or arts institutions have when they're programming an Indigenous artist, and how can we shift to creating culturally safe spaces instead of just kind of checking our equity and inclusion box by having Indigenous artists on stage in the month of June? So that's a question for both of you, whoever wants to jump in.
I knew you were going to do that, Christine. Yeah, great question, Kaylee. And in the sense of, um, there's a lot of different answers one could take, and it depends kind of specifically, I think, too, on the particular organization or space, or individual that's looking to work with Indigenous artists and artistry. Um, the the most simplest way to say is Indigenous folks, including Indigenous artists, should be leading their own kind of initiatives and um, calling the shots on how and what and when. Nothing about us without us in the sense. But it's also, it's more than that in the sense that, as you say, Indigenous decision makers are few and far between, especially in this sector. And that needs to shift. And even the work that I'm doing for culture and municipalities, it's a real struggle to work with municipal councils to understand that the Indigenous communities that of the land that they now settle on need to be at the decision-making table for all things that are happening behind the scenes within that municipality. And to share that power, if not hand over that power, is extremely difficult. And kind of comes back to people don't want to give up the power, or they don't trust the Indigenous hands due to racism, due to stereotyping, and the ongoing parameters of which Indigenous people are continued to be patronized and or seen as children that need to be nurtured and cared for. Um, it's it's a situation where when an Indigenous artist is wanted to come into a space, you ask all the right questions. What do you need for your spirit? What do you need for your protocol? We produced an event in Ottawa in November, and it was simple protocols that were just ignored because it's not so much that the programmers at the facility didn't know what they were doing, but it was then the trickle down to just the caretaking staff didn't know what they were doing. So they threw out medicines, for instance. And that's something that a lot of places don't understand, that it's not just you and the role that you're doing if you're part of an organization or you're even a voice in part of an organization or a space. It's that trickle down effect. If not everybody in the space is buying into the same scenario of understanding the space they take up as individuals, then nothing is going to change. And the atrocities are going to continue. And that's where there's a lot of work that has to happen, and people need to be willing to ask the right questions of their community leaders and step aside to have to be humble enough to be told what's is and isn't appropriate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally agree. It's
Thank
true.
you. Oh,
So
someone making background noise, so I'm just going to do a quick mute. Christine, do you want to add anything to that question?
I'll just add a little bit about, I guess, autonomy, not equity, like taking back our place on this land is so important. Sometimes we're going to go into these spaces and there's going to be um, energies or history linked to that space. So sometimes there needs to be certain kind of clearings or time to be in a space. But it's artists, the healers, and the helpers that have the visionary pathways forward for our people and community. And yeah, that our there's so it was also our role as an Anishinaabe Kwe, as Indigenous women, or even all people of that are connected to our connected to their tribes or to their land or to their community, that we're supposed to share and show how to be with the spirit of the land. So I guess depending on what has happened in those certain areas, there's an opportunity to look after and to do that work. So that's important too.
Yeah, thank you both. I think um, that was really beautiful and a good reminder that it's actually a simple answer to this question is to find out what people really need and then respect that once they've told you. I think we sometimes forget that you can just ask people what they need. But you're absolutely right, Terry, saying that sometimes we in leadership might know that we want to be respectful and we know what folks have asked for, and then we don't consider all the other sort of touch points of interactions that that person's going to have with our organization, and making sure that each of those touch points is respectful and knows what protocol has been requested. Yeah, absolutely.
I think also to put that out there that like safe space for me is no drugs or alcohol as well. So I think that's just really important to put out there. For me, that's kind of where yeah, I think that's important. Mhm. But
Yeah.
that, and there's ways, and yeah, there's many ways, but for me, that's something important.
So my next question is about the concept of professionalism. And I think that concept is sometimes, well, really always grounded in colonial ideas, and it's sometimes weaponized against our Indigenous colleagues. So I wondered if either of you wanted to kind of comment on the way that's kind of operating insidiously in our industry, this concept of professionalism.
And I knew you were going to do that to me because we had a little practice run with this earlier or last week, and the first thing that came to me, I have a rough husband, like he's kind of like a gruff guy, and he helps me with like standing up and being professional. This is kind of going to sound very unprofessional of me, but like don't be an asshole. So like be kind, I think is really important. Yes, professional, like it's just such a that's another, I think, colonial word that's hard to wrap. But professional is being a good helper, a good someone who leads by example. um, I've worked with some really incredible, you go to different theaters and you work with these seasoned stage behind the scenes, and when you're prepared and when you kind of connect to the energy. I think it's people that get really anxious and really all flustered, like that feel unprofessional to me. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I like your use of the weaponizing that word, Kaylee, because I think that uh, that's a good way to look at it. And when you think about professional. It isn't a word that translates, of course, but we often associate other very oppressive, exclusive words such as educated with it. And then if you take it another level, civilized. These were words that were intentionally designed to oppress and to make invisible those that were not part of the ruling class. And so I try to avoid even using the word professional if I can, because it's such a loaded word. And how and what are we really meaning when we say professional? Are we saying someone who's not an asshole? I'm going to be as bad as you, Christine. And is it someone who is kind, who is respectful, who understands their situation, their space, the journey they've been on is not the same as anybody else in the room. And therefore, the weight of their journey is just as valid as everybody else in the room. Is that professional? I would think so too, because that's coming from a place of love. That's coming from a place of spirit. Because I think for me, that's what the word should be, or should be rooted in. But in today's concepts of language, we get bogged down with words in the English language and or French language that have roots in such a colonial hierarchy of class and race that we find it hard to disseminate the difference. So the best thing is to not use those words. Come up with more stringent words that actually reflect the individual identity, not the individual qualifications. Because what is a qualification? Again, education. What do those things really mean? And how do they really define someone? I think that the power politics that we sit next to politically as a country right now should really be teaching all of us the challenges with the English language and how much it is being corrupted to spread a story that is really rooted in its own form of oppression very easily. And again, we need to be going back to identifying what is it in a personal identity that is valuable and is worth nurturing and harnessing onto as a collective collaborator in your life journey.
Wow, that was a fabulous answer from both of you. Thank you. I do want to just flag this for everyone that's here. If it's something that you maybe haven't thought too deeply about, just like Terry said, maybe we abandon the word professional altogether, but maybe also just noticing the ways in which we judge someone's professionalism based on how they communicate, the timeline that they communicate on, the educational background they have, as Terry mentioned earlier. One of my very first jobs as an intern at a theater company was going through CVs of actors who were applying to audition, and just I was doing the initial sort. Look for people who have a degree from a college that we respect. Look for people who have credits with other theater companies that we already know about. That's a really easy way to kind of quickly filter through a large stack of CVs, but it's also a really quick way to be classist and to rely on some colonial definitions of success, coming back to what Christine said earlier. So I want to flag that for everyone to think about. Now, this is my final question. So, Noor, I'm giving you a heads up that we're going to flip to our final activity after this. And Tashina, I'm going to give you a heads up that if you want to answer this question as well, I will flip it to you after. No pressure. You can also pass. But just to kind of leave it on this positive note for the future, I want to ask each of you to share, what do you hope to see in the future of Indigenous arts in Canada, in so-called Canada? What do you envision for a wonderful future for this movement? Terry or Christine, if you want to start. Terry, yes.
Well, yeah, I think for me, this is a bit of an easy answer. Um, my horizon and my goal before I retire is to fulfill the commitment that I made with the original founding members of LodgePole Arts Alliance some 6 years ago, to basically have us own land to design, build, create, operate, and program with all Indigenous voices and bodies behind all of those operations, an Indigenous arts studio complex, and one that operates, in a relationship with Indigenous artists from across Turtle Island and beyond, that affords comfort and welcome in a way that is not easily recognized in colonial spaces or studio spaces that most people operate on today, on territory or not, and one that provides a land base that is multi-purpose and welcoming and nurturing and healthy for those artists to envision, for those artists to connect, and to be able to return to the intentions of their ancestors and themselves, for future generations. So I hope we're so close to having this space. It's actually a situation that we might be in the position to have occupied space very shortly, of a land space that Christine has visited, that we might have in our possession soon. So it's exciting times. Exciting times. Yeah.
Thank you. Christine, what do you envision for the future?
What I envision is well, what I'm going to do is build a camp, like rebuild, like activate the entrepreneurial spirit of our people and inspire that, bring people to like semi-isolated locations, but still have, here I can use the word professional, a professional sprung floor instead of this old crappy floor, like in some old smelly basement. So yes, so having those good quality, professional settings in land-based spaces or settings. I use that word again. So and being able to take back our place on the land. Many people are living their best life because they took our best life away, and that's coming back now to us. It's already there. It's already with us, but it's really important that that keeps accumulating, so the land and the water can be looked after in a good way. And we can also, everyone needs to look after the land, everyone needs to look after the water, not just Indigenous people, but all of us together. Institutions partnering with organizations that are community based. So partnering with an organization that is based in the city is not the same as partnering with organization that's based in community. I think we need to start to share the opportunity, the funding, and get creative of ways to collaborate. So if we can create those platforms for those conversations to happen, and then not just let these conversations, we have these great things happen, but to do the action, to do the work together. So I really, that's what I'm seeing. For me, I really, if I think something needs to be done, it's my job to do it. So I hope, I just keep working.
Thank you. Tashina, would you like to answer this question? You can also pass, no pressure.
The future, just let me work. Let me do what I want to do. Right now, I think my biggest challenge is I'm not an elder. So like I grew up with culture, I grew up with ceremony, I grew up with the land. So like it's really difficult trying to be hireable. Like, I was a part of helping to create a lot of the program and the information that went into, say, like college programs, some of them, but I don't get any honorary anything, right? So like, because of my upbringing and my knowledge, there's a lot of spaces that I've been really, really active in creating for teaching, but I can't get jobs because I don't have a piece of paper. So like, really honoring where you're getting your information, and making more space for young people who are, because it's not my, it's like my story as a young person is different than my elders, is different than my parents. So a lot of younger people are growing up with less of the less of the intense internalized trauma. Like, we have safer spaces to do our healing work as a younger person, because of the way society is right now. I can do my work sooner. Like, so as an intuitive, as somebody who, I don't incorporate culture. I am, like, I just am. So allowing me to bring love, because when you live your this way of life, this Minobamadzuin, when you carry your life with your teachings, you're just going to bring love into whatever you do. You can't live Minobamadzuin and be mad, like be mean to people. So it's like more spaces for people that have been doing the work. Like, I don't have a website. Like, there's a lot of things that I really struggle with as somebody who has grown up doing the work already. It's that whole, I don't even, like, it's weird even having a business card for me. Like, my elders are who I was a helper from a very young age. So like, my elders would roll over in their grave if they saw me, like, practitioner, or you know what I mean? Like, on a business card, intuitive. Like, but everybody needs a biography, and like, it's good to have those, but for somebody who, like, grows up in culture, it's kind of it's jarring, to it goes like a lot of the way that professionals present themselves and have to present themselves. It goes kind of against how we have to sit. Like, we sit in circle, we sit in circle, and we share our gifts. I don't want to lift myself to a place where, I don't want to have to prove and talk about myself, so that people believe in me. Like, just show up and let's have a good time. Like, so it's hard. Like, I don't like selling myself, because that's in a long time ago, and still is, like, you would get work because the people brought you in. Like, people talk, like, and if the people have a good experience, they bring you in. So that's always kind of been my main way of working, is just going on, like, word of mouth, and where a creator decides to bring me, that's where I'm supposed to be. So maybe just, kind of looking at what does that space look like for the younger ones that are coming up, that might, that also have to exist in these colonial spaces. And it's something that I think about, and I hope for my children. it is very difficult to walk in two different worlds, and to try and stay grounded in both of them. So I think what Terry and Christine said were really kind of captured all of that. But yeah, just yeah, just allowing more space for us to do our work, because we're ready to work. We want to work. And there's no word for art in our language, the language that I come from. So it's how, like, it's your intention. As soon as we put intention into something, it's art. Like, and that's how I grew up understanding. I grew up with understanding intention and not necessarily understanding art. It was just, you did a good job no matter what it was, or else. Or else me, just kidding. But that's what I kind of imagine for the future. Just give us safe space to work, do our work, because we've been ready. Very good.
Thank you so much. Terry, it looked like you maybe wanted to comment there. Or no? No? Okay. Just checking. Does anyone in our crowd here have any final questions that you wanna ask? Yes, we have one question. I will go to Richard. Hello. Do you want to ask out loud? Yes.
Great. Hello. Wlalio, thank you very much for this very informative session. I'm very thankful to have been here and been invited. Mi'kmaq First Nation, Ninda Luisi Gipo Makiwanu. I come from Lennox Sound First Nation's PEI, Prince Edward Island, and I think there's a lot of valuable, very valuable teachings that were passed on here. And I think coming into this, I had more like a plan of what I wanted to ask. And I think for me, I have an all Indigenous theater company called the Mi'kmaq Heritage Actors. And we've been doing performances for over 16 years now, which is crazy, over 1,000 showcases. And it's all about teaching or showcasing the Maui Omi, the powwow, and telling the stories of the Mi'kmaq people in kind of different ways. We also have many different nations involved. We have Ceilidh Kwe, Mohawk involved as well. So we really should be focused on the Wabanaki instead, which is all encompassing. But anyways, I think I'm looking for a question in suggestible, helpful advice. We've been doing the showcase for over 16 years now, and we have our spaces that we get invited back to every year, which is amazing. We're very thankful to have these contracts, but we have always had struggling of kind of getting nationally, and how do we spread our wings and move forward, outside of Abbotsford, outside of Atlantic Canada, Mi'kmaq. So I think that's kind of where I'm looking around, is maybe some recommendations, kind of put us in the right direction.
Thank you, Richard. Now we only have 2 minutes left. Not to put pressure on you, but Terry or Christine, if you have anything that kind of jumped into your mind there that you want to share.
Oh, I think, like, for me, I just always wanted to be connected to community and put my energy into community. So so I actually could ask myself the same question, like, as you're asking, like, if I wanted to start to become more of an, internet, like, build those connections, how do we do that? And I actually don't know, because I don't think the support is there unless, I think that that's something that's missing. And then maybe the people that are witnessing this conversation can, maybe they have part of the answer, but maybe it needs to get back down to the people in the community, and how, because it's not, maybe the answer is in the city, but it's not in the community. I don't know what it is. I've been, I still don't know what it is. But I'd like to find out. And when I find out, I'll share it with you. So, but yeah, so I think that's something there's a missing connection. There's a missing connection to the audience, part of the people that are witnessing this, and the people that are in community. So we need to do some work together. We need to build that relationship, because it's not. Yes, there's, there's different organizations, I think, that have these connections, but something's not happening where people aren't sharing the connections. I don't have them. So yeah.
Thank you, Christine. I think I have to stop us there, although I'm seeing some action in the chat. So some stuff for Richard. Thank you all for putting that out there. Hopefully Richard is seeing these answers. If everyone's willing to stay for 2 minutes past our 3:30 end time, I don't know if everyone saw my message to bring a small object that reminds you of slow touring, and we're going to use that in a second. But I will just get my my housekeeping out of the way. So first and most importantly, I want to thank you, Terri, Christine, and Tashina for sharing with us today. You shared a lot of really meaningful and important ideas, and you shared about your work, which I think provides such a good example for everyone to look to. So thank you also just for your general work being community leaders and smart, strong women that we can, really look to as an example. So thank you. I will thank my colleague Noor, who I didn't get to introduce before, but Noor is another program manager at Ontario Presents and has been background teching us today. So thank you. I want to thank the Department of Canadian Heritage. They're our funder for this current phase of slow touring. And my last piece of admin before we go to our objects is this is a series of workshops, and the next one is at the end of February on the rural perspective on slow touring, which in fact ties in with some things that were shared today. So I threw the link in the chat if anyone wants to register for the upcoming sessions. If you haven't already, would love to have you there. But finally, as an ending note, if you brought an object that reminds you of slow touring, I invite you to get that out now. And I invite you to hold it in your hands or place one hand on it if it's, on your desk on a surface. And just for a second, think about one thing that you want to take away from today's workshop. One thing that really landed with you, or that is something that you want to work on or incorporate into your work going forward. So just take a couple moments to think, what's that one thing that's going to come with you out of today? And now we're all gonna hold our objects and kind of put that energy into our object so that it can sit with us and we can be reminded when we see our object of that thing that we wanted to stick with us. So let's all send the energy of today's workshop and of that one idea, sending it into my little turtle who reminds me to slow and steady wins the race. Take one deep breath together. And exhale. And hopefully you'll be reminded of some of the wonderful things we learned today as we go forward. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time.
Bye, everyone. Kanien'kehá. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm here.
And I want to write down some of these emails to the answer. The question.
Yeah, the reason I'm keeping the Zoom open awkwardly, even though we've ended, is that there's lots going on in the chat, and I just want to make sure everyone can see it if they want to.